On Thursday, the House Homeland Security Committee will hold hearings on the terror attack in Boston. Lawmakers want to know more about communication between federal agencies, and they want to look ahead. What can be done to prevent another potential attack? Congressman Cedric Richmond of Louisiana joins us now from New Orleans. Good to see you. And Congressman Richard Hudson, who represents North Carolina, is joining us from Washington. Good to see you as well. All right, so you both sit on the Homeland Security Committee. I want you to listen first, however, to what Senator Dick Durbin had to say on CNN earlier today. He believes one answer to preventing attacks is in the pending immigration legislation. Listen.
It's hard to believe 12 years after 9/11 we're having this conversation, but you put your finger on it. There is not enough coordination between these different agencies so that we know someone should not have been readmitted to the United States. Our bill addresses that directly. We have up to 11 million people coming forward to register, so we know who they are, and that is going to make us more secure. I mentioned the border security. Dealing with this whole exit-entry visa issue, and we're having verification in the workplace. At the end of the day, immigration reform starts to do things that should have been done long ago and makes it an absolute priority of this government.
So, Congressman Hudson, you first. Is he right? Does immigration play a role in preventing another potential Boston-type bombing?
Well, absolutely. That's a big part of it, especially when you look at one of the three friends of Dzhokhar Zarnef's, who was arrested. We're finding now, at least through news reports, that he has overstayed a tourist visa. And so that's a prime example where we need to do a better job of tracking the people who are here in this country who may have overstayed visas because, frankly, when you look at the illegal population in this country, over 40% are here because they've overstayed a visa.
So, Congressman Richmond, how do you see it?
Well, I think we do have a problem with people overstaying their visa, but when you talk about self-radicalization in this incident, I don't think that immigration reform is necessarily the key to curing it. We have a number of issues in the country in terms of people and self-radicalization and the views that they hold. So I would not hold immigration reform out to the public as being a cure-all for instances like this, because I still think that we live in a dangerous society. We can't cut Homeland Security, and the sequester plays a part in it also. So I think that it's a little bit more comprehensive than Senator Durbin makes it appear. So, no, I don't agree with him.
So, Congressman Richmond, what kind of questions will you have this week when we all hear reportedly that Russian officials asked the FBI to investigate the older brother? They did, but then the investigating didn't continue upon Tamerlan Tsarnaev's return from Chechnya. What kind of questions do you want to pose this week?
Well, the questions I want to pose this week are those that you just raised, which is why wasn't he continued to be investigated? What did they look into? What did they find? Why did they stop? And all of those things. The problem that I think we're going to have is that we won't have the proper officials there to respond because it's still an ongoing investigation. The FBI, the CIA, and everybody will probably not want to comment on it. So part of it, and we in Congress have to do is we probably need to let them take the investigation and let it run its course. But we do have a role as oversight to make sure that these type of things don't happen. There was we let the American people down this time, and we need to figure out why, and we need to make sure it doesn't happen again.
So, Congressman Hudson, who is invited to answer some of these questions if, just as the Congressman just mentioned, the investigation is ongoing, so perhaps CIA and FBI officials would not necessarily be available for this type of hearing, this kind of Q&A at this juncture? Who is going to be there?
Well, we've got representatives from those agencies who will be testifying. I don't have the witness list in front of me, but I think it is important that we begin looking into this. We have an important role of oversight. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, including did these brothers act alone? What were the circumstances that led Tamerlan to be radicalized? We need to look at the information sharing that goes on between the agencies. There may be changes that we need to make in the law that when you look at how information is shared among agencies. And frankly, I think the biggest piece is we need to look at what information is shared with local and state law enforcement. And are we doing a good enough job from the Homeland Security standpoint of sharing information?
Weren't there some of the same questions that came out of the 9/11 Commission? I mean, you know, do you feel satisfied that the resolutions, what was learned from that commission and those studies was put into place or simply ignored, which left gaping holes for something like this to happen?
Well, I think we learned a lot of lessons from 9/11. I think one of the biggest lessons was you have these big bureaucracies that stovepipe their information and don't do a good job of sharing. I think we've made very good improvements, but in the case of Homeland Security, we've created a monster-sized agency and tasked them with coordinating, and you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. And then when you talk about issues like the immigration entry and exit information, you also look at the Counterterrorism Center and what kind of information they're looking at. Is that information being shared? Is there a nexus that needs to be there that isn't there? Those are the questions we ought to be asking to see what kind of lessons we can learn to improve and continue to get better.
All right, Congressman Hudson, Congressman Richmond, thanks so much for both of your time. And later on today, we're actually going to be talking to two of the original members of that 9/11 Commission to get their take on what they think may have potentially gone wrong and what was resolved post 9/11. All right, thanks.